This is the Defenders podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Secret Invasion, Episode 4, Beloved.
You asked if you could assume her life.
I asked if she wanted to fall in love. She wanted to know how, of course. And I told her about you. She made me make her 3 promises. 1, that I would bury her at sea, which I did. 2, that I would continue to be a daughter to her parents.
And you've also done.
Mm-hmm.
3,
that I would never hurt you. Sorry, darling.
And did you get what you wanted from this life? Even so?
I did.
And what did you want?
To call myself beloved.
Welcome back, fellow Defenders. This is TV Podcast Industries, and we are covering Secret Invasion, Episode 4, Beloved. I am one of your hosts, John.
I'm one of your other hosts, Derek.
And rounding out this trio, I am Chris.
Excellent stuff.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, you're back, John.
I am. Yeah. I am back. I am here.
Or are you?
I don't know. Was I kidnapped by little green men?
He's wearing a green t-shirt today as well, which is unusual.
It's teal, actually.
Teal. Very good.
In fact, I think it's petrol blue is how it was described when I bought it.
A man's colour for real men.
It's not green.
I got it in Texas.
I love it. I love it. I've got a little bit of a gravelier voice this week because I had my summer barbecue party with work last night. So my apologies. A little bit gravelier than normal. But let's kick off the podcast with a little bit of Marvel news because some cool stuff that came out today. Apparently, this season of Secret Invasion cost $212 million to make.
Wow.
That's a pretty big budget.
That is a big price
for
tag.
6 episodes of the show, of course, rather than just a 2-hour movie. But I think, and we'll get into it obviously as we get into the episode, but I think this episode features some of the biggest budget stuff that we've seen on screen.
Definitely.
But if you add to that all the Skrull transformations and the de-aging that's going on in the show, there's a lot of money that you can see on screen in this show.
And the travelling, London. Possibly somewhere in London.
Somerset.
Doubling as Moscow.
More London, inside London.
Yes.
North London, Manchester.
It's very expensive to get around the UK. I've heard train tickets prices have got up quite a lot.
I don't think they're going by train.
They probably are.
That might be why it costs so much.
Yeah, might not
We
be.
also have some other Marvel MCU news. We are recording on the 14th of July. And officially, all productions on MCU projects have now stopped.
That's correct.
So
Yes.
That is
Deadpool
true.
3 stopped as of 12:01 today.
Yes.
All other writing and production and non-directorial editing is still one of the only ones allowed because they have their deal. But all the writers, all the actors, which includes VOs, narratives, ADR, everything is now on strike.
Yes.
So, expect news in the coming weeks and months where we find out the schedule has changed yet again.
Absolutely, yes. The Screen Actors Guild have gone on strike in solidarity with the Writers Guild, exactly as they should. So hopefully a deal comes through very soon. What it does also impact, which I found out because of the actual list of things that when they're on strike they can't do, what it also impacts is appearances by writers and actors on anything from podcasts to conventions. So San Diego Comic-Con's coming up in 2 weeks' time. I've seen at least one panel been cancelled already from AMC's Interview the Vampire panel has been cancelled. So likely that all the other panels that feature just actors or writers will also be cancelled, unfortunately. So that's a real shame, given that there are only already a lot of studios had pulled out of San Diego Comic-Con because of the writer's strike and the fact that they have no future plan of exactly when things are going to be released, which is usually what's announced at San Diego Comic-Con. But yeah, that's going to be a bit of a shame because people spend a lot of money getting to San Diego for an event like that, and now to have a lot of major panels being cancelled.
All of Hall H, pretty much.
Yeah, well, this year, Hall H is focused on comics. It is a Comic-Con, of course. There's lots of people that go there for comics, but it is unfortunate that a lot of the other big panels have been maybe cancelled.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The big one I did, as you saying, like, it's so the appearances, but it's also promotions as well. So,
Yes.
like, we saw yesterday, all of the stars of Oppenheimer up and left the premiere. They arrived, the SAG strike officially got announced while they were at the premiere, so they all had to leave because they can no longer do promotion of it, even if it's in the can and it's out.
Exactly.
They can't do promotion.
Exactly.
So there's the Star Wars stuff, Ahsoka, which is coming like in a couple of weeks-ish. Like, no one will be doing any marketing or promotional material or acting or kind of appearances, interviews on that. Same with Loki, depending on how long this goes.
Exactly.
So it's going to get quite interesting when it comes to promoting and talking about all this stuff. It's going to get
definitely
knocking out the stars. So
Because it can only be the directors as well. The writers are also on strike, so they won't.
Well, that's it. I was
involved.
thinking, Christopher Nolan at Oppenheimer, because he does get writing credits. So I wonder what hat he's wearing, because obviously writers are still on strike. As a director, he's not on strike.
Yeah, he'll have to have done all of his promotion already. And I know the Barbie crew were out doing all of their promotion around the world for their movie coming out in a week's time. So they've all stopped too. But let's end our Marvel news section with a nice story today. I don't know whether you saw this announcement today. There's a brand new writer on the brand new Miss Marvel comic coming out. Do you know who it is? It's Iman Vellani.
nice.
The actress who played Ms. Marvel in the TV show is now going to be writing the comic book. She said she was even more nervous about taking on the role of writer as Ms. Marvel than she was going into the MCU. But I'm so excited. I think that's a cool idea.
That's very cool.
Give her the reins. She's been leading the charge of Ms. Marvel and selling lots and lots of comic books since her appearance on the show. So let's see what she brings to the brand new Ms. Marvel.
Good on her, is what I say. Yep, definitely.
So good news to start us out.
Yes, exactly. Let us head on over to our spoiler-filled discussion. Just before we do, though, remember, fellow defenders, you can head on over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com for any good or evil podcast catcher of your choice. You can also leave a voicemail there as well for our feedback section if you so wish. You can also send in emails to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com. And of course, we are on Facebook. Our Facebook group is at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries.
And don't forget, we will have the fourth question in our Secret Invasion pub quiz coming up later in the podcast. And you can email the answers to all those questions to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com as well.
Most definitely. Derek, what are some of the episode details for episode 4, Beloved?
Well, once again, executive producers for the show are Kevin Feige, Jonathan Schwartz, Louis Desposito, Brad Winderbaum, Samuel L. Jackson, Ali Salim, Kyle Bradstreet, and Brian Tucker. Head writer for the show is Kyle Bradstreet for the entire season. All episodes are directed by Ali Salim, and this episode, once again, written by Brian Tucker.
Good stuff.
Yeah. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for Secret Invasion, Episode 4, Beloved?
Sure. Gaia recovers from her wound, having previously used Gravik's machine to empower herself with the Extremis DNA. And she reunites with Talos, who reveals that he plans to ask the United States President Ritson to help the Skrulls after they successfully stop the rebels. She thinks that peace on Earth between Skrulls and humans is delusional and tells her father she has changed as she walks away. Elsewhere, Priscilla meets with Rhodes, who is revealed to be a disguised Skrull. He instructs her to kill Fury, though both of them are unaware that Fury is listening in on their conversation. Fury later confronts Priscilla over her allegiance, but they make amends after she reveals she took an oath to her human counterpart to never harm her lover. Fury breaks into Rhodes' hotel room under the ruse to iron things out between him and Rhodey, and the two share a drink, which, unknown to Rhodes, contains a liquid tracker. Fury and Talos then follow him as he goes to pick up President Ritson. However, Gravik and the Skrull rebels attack Ritson's convoy under the guise of Russian terrorists. With the aid of the British Army, Fury and Talos extract an unconscious Ritson, but Talos is wounded in the process. A British soldier helps the injured Talos to Fury's car, but Fury becomes suspicious of the soldier as he turns into Gravik, who stabs Talos, killing Fury's friend right in front of him.
Another body.
I know.
This is the Disturbed song, Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. Let the bodies hit the floor.
All I know.
Yeah, this season has lost a lot of characters so far, but interestingly, we start out with the return of one character that we thought was dead.
Absolutely.
Did we?
Well, let us get into our 3 case points for this episode. Case note number 1.
Gaia, the return.
Yeah,
Called it.
We did. Yes.
Yeah.
Literally, scene for scene, literally in the last podcast, I went, what they'll probably do is just like have her, and it'll be the extremist thing, and then we'll get a flashback of her running into the machine, and literally that's what we got. I was like, here guys, come on. Disney, I'm ready to step up to the writing plate. Come on. Like,
I'm telling you, we've got to start working on that Banshee treatment, the Irish superhero. It'll come around at some point.
Absolutely. And we can cast the guy from the meme who's doing the kind of,
I thought you were the screaming goat.
of that. Absolutely.
Surely we've got some good Irish actors that we could cast in that role.
Absolutely, yeah. But I'm thinking of sound design already.
All right.
So it's good to see Gaia back.
Yes.
Look, we knew she probably couldn't die. And it does make me question whether Talos, which we'll discuss later, and it brings back again that question of whether Kobe Smulders, Maria Hill is dead. Again, I don't know whether they're going to bring back everyone and go, surprise, everyone who you thought is dead isn't really dead, so there was no stakes whatsoever ever.
Yeah. I don't think that's the case. I think Gaia being brought back at the beginning of this episode makes it unlikely that Talos is coming back.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like that. And certainly with the bench scene where effectively, she says, she wants to be with him, give me your plan. She just really doesn't buy it anymore. She, as it says in the synopsis, she calls it delusional, this idea that Skrulls will somehow be able to coexist with humans harmoniously because it's not who Skrulls are, she says, and it's not who I am. Like, she's changed and kind of walks away. But you never know. She could have slipped something to him there at the park bench, but
we see them at the park bench as the camera arrives, effectively. So they may have been there 10 minutes beforehand, and she was going,
maybe.
Hey, Dad, do you know what? I've got this extremis virus inside me. If I give you some of my blood, you could also have the extremis.
But potentially,
but I doubt it.
And potentially it's more than that. I mean, actually, she is a super Skrull now.
Yes, she is.
And, we do see in this episode the group powers on Gravik that we saw from the trailer as well. So maybe she's kind of got a smorgasbord of superhero powers.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Look, I think right now the question is open of whether he is dead or not. I'd like...
Yeah.
Now, there's 2 schools of thought out there. The one is they're essentially cleaning the board for the next generation. You've had a decade of characters, so now we're going to get the new Captain America.
That's
now we're
true.
going to get a new kind of potentially Nick Fury, or a new, in this one, Talos.
Yeah.
Like, the new Talos is the Super Skrull, which is Gaia. And when you have Emilia Clarke, that's a star power.
Yeah.
She's a name that can draw people to the cinema as a star. Like, so, like, her being a member of whatever the next Avengers is, or the next, as a Super Skrull, it makes sense.
The Young Avengers, yes. Which has been set up in every show so far in all the Disney Plus TV shows. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess as well, you know, if it is Samuel L. Jackson's kind of swan song as well, a bit out of the MCU, then with Talos going, you know, it makes sense. But I mean, it's just sad not to have had Ben Mendelsohn on, you know, the cinema screen, let alone the TV screen, as this character for a bit more. I mean, I guess we will see him in the Marvels.
We might just see him in the Marvels, yeah. My current working theory is the Marvels takes place before this series, because it takes place at the end of Miss Marvel, is this kind of start of the movie, and Wandavision obviously had connections to the Marvels. So my current working theory is that we should see all of these characters back. Kobe Smulders should be coming back as Maria Hill, so we should at least see them back on the big screen again. But Ben Mendelsohn has been fantastic in the season so far.
Yes. Yeah.
I do want to mention his plan, though. I want to give a little bit more to Talos's plan, because it's very specifically written. His concept is something that comes from a lot of people that fight for civil rights. This idea that we don't need to actually fight. We don't need to take up arms against our oppressors. They need to see who we truly are. We need to show them our heart. We need to show them who we are. And when they see us, then they'll give us equality. And it is the other school of thought when you have people that are trying to get civil rights. As opposed to the people that take up arms against their oppressors. So it's something that I've heard a lot, with people fighting for LGBTQ plus rights, that, you know, they feel that if people see that we're the same as them, then therefore we will then be allowed to live exactly the same as them. I've seen it with black rights in America. Same argument has been going on for decades. I mean, so it's the two schools of thought are represented here. I don't think is interesting.
I don't think it goes that far. I mean, I would say, I guess here, Gravik is the Malcolm X to Talos's Martin Luther. But it's not that Talos wants to, well, we will just look like humans for the rest of time. It's a holding strategy for him, whilst he can show them that they're, you know, that they're, you know, what their values are, and that they can coexist, and in harmony, I guess.
Yeah. I will say, though,
but
personally, I feel it's a terrible strategy delivered by Talos. She's saying to him, Gravik actually has a plan here. While I'm not completely on his side, of course, because she's been a double agent. Give me your plan. Tell me what your actual plan is. My plan is to snap down the insurgency, put my hand out to the president, ask for something small, and then maybe we might be able to get amnesty for the other million Skrulls. That's not a plan.
Yeah, no, it felt a little sort of, lame in comparison. I mean, I think to Gaia's point is that, well, it doesn't matter even if she does agree with it, because saying Gravik has implemented his, and that also involves a coup of the power structures in the Skrull community on Earth.
Exactly.
And he's built a following. Whereas Talos's influence has waned, with the absence of Nick Fury. Yeah. I mean, I actually do think in many respects, it is Captain Marvel is getting off quite scot-free here, because she is technically the one that can actually fly around the galaxy to find a new planet. Yeah. I mean,
and I think that's what Gaia was probably expecting. She's been undercover effectively with Gravik's group for a long time. She's there sitting with her father going, tell me the plan. Fury's back from space. Maybe she was expecting to go, oh yeah, while he was on Saber, he was in communication with Captain Marvel, who's out in such and such a part of the galaxy and has found a new home for the Skrulls. Yeah. That's not the plan he gives. Yeah. So obviously she turns away and walks.
And I think the whole reference to the Emperor in one of the previous episodes, episode 2, I think that still needs to be explained, because he's obviously there with a bunch of Skrulls, and so does he has no interest in Earth, or is it this Emperor who is backing, a bit to your point, Chris, from the comics, it's the Skrull Queen. Is he somehow backing Gravik here? Because actually that is his intention, because really they're kind of a bit like the Asgardians. They've basically just got one spaceship left, but they're staying out of it or something until...
So I do have I have an idea about who I think that might be now. I think the proxy of that was introduced in this episode. The proxy of the Queen, of the Empress. Spoiler, we'll talk more about it. Rhodey.
Yeah.
A female Skrull is Rhodey, and doesn't, while acts and says certain things, does make it also seem that they are able to work separately from Gravik, and makes it seem like their relationship with Gravik is not concerned of anyone else's. Could be that we find out that this female Skrull who is playing Rhodey is, while not the Queen or the Empress, probably a proxy for what that character was in the comic books, because that character was in the comic books Spider-Woman. So as a superhero, or was disguising herself. So I think on this one, I think we'll have to find out by the end of this series what the relationship is with the Emperor, like this other group. If Gravik wins, which he won't, he's not gonna win. Like, because come on, it's a TV show. That's sort of like how he loses is a question mark I have. But if he won, his whole thing would be that he would go to the Emperor and kind of go, hey, yeah, look, we've taken over this whole new planet. Like, I'll come here. We need some explanation on that.
Yeah, because there's obviously a reason why a million Skrulls didn't go and join him as well.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
They had an option. Either they go to him or they come to Earth.
No, exactly. So, I just think, it should come out, and hopefully it will.
Yeah, and there's also the other thing, and I know this isn't very satisfying, but there is also the other thing that potentially the whole reason for it is, well, at least we can have a group of Skrulls that are out in space that can do other things in other movies in the future.
Yes.
That's
exactly.
kind of
that's
just to have
true.
that backup that there are other Skrulls alive and out there. Yeah. Got one other thing on this point, if that's okay, just because I have to call it out. This is a spy show, and there is absolutely nothing better in a spy movie or a spy TV show than having two people on a park bench right beside the pond, the duck pond, having their secret conversation. It's such a great trope, because it's one of those places that they can't be monitored and they can have these discussions. I thought it was a great little thing to put in there. I'm absolutely convinced the location scouter was out looking for the perfect spot to be sitting beside a pond for a couple of weeks before it was filmed.
No, absolutely. Good stuff. Let us get on to our case note number 2. Yes, Fury, his wife, and the Skrull handler.
Yes. Some of my favourite scenes in the episode here.
Definitely.
And probably in the season, actually. And I absolutely love these moments between Nick and Priscilla. There's just such a weight in their conversations, and it's just laid out really well in the episode. The fact that we have the flashback to 2012 in France, just after the attack in New York, the big battle in the Avengers, if you didn't get the references that she's making there. But I love those moments where Priscilla is effectively saying to Nick, I knew it was you behind it. I knew it had to be someone like you. And she sounds like she's really proud of him for making these decisions to set up this super team of Avengers to take on alien threats. Who else on the planet knows that aliens are out there and they can be really threatening other than Nick Fury, because he's been dealing with the Skrulls for about 15 years at that stage, right? So I like those moments. I love the poem that she reads about whether you're satisfied with life at the end. I thought that was great.
Yeah, it was really good.
And then to cut to the church scene where Rhodey's giving her a mission that either Nick dies or she does. And he's doesn't really care which is really interesting. No,
absolutely. I really enjoyed the church scene between Priscilla and Rhodey, actually, because it was good exposition. It was kind of confirmation here that Rhodey was a Skrull, certainly giving the order to kill Fury, but also because I as he said it, that when Priscilla was asking, I believe he was fired, and Rhodey goes, I did that. I DDT'd that guy, Nick Fury, from the top rope. And then he goes, like the Undertaker. And I was like going, I'm sure the Undertaker's, his move was really the tombstone. Yeah. That would be the reference there. And it's just like, do you like going, oh, it's a Skrull?
Exactly.
Because he doesn't understand that the Undertaker does tombstones.
And he doesn't do DDTs from the top ropes. Never did it in all of his career. Yeah. So yes, definitely a Skrull.
So I really like that. And the other reference, I guess, maybe not to wrestling, but I love the fact that they were singing Tippett's Deep River, the choir. That's one of my favorites. And
you sang that, didn't you?
I did. And so
when you're in the Halle.
Yes, but it is based off African spiritual. So it's really, really a great tune. So that was really good. And actually, Rhodey here, I mean, given that you've been rooting for him throughout the MCU, Rhodey Skrull, and you just kind of do really want to just strangle him. I love the fact that, yes, looks the same, sounds the same, but in terms of, even just how he deals with Priscilla, kill Fury or you'll be killed, you've got to look over your shoulder. If you don't do it, we'll come to, and he knows exactly where she lives, and we'll kill you. Yeah. So, totally, he's uncompromising. And I think that was why I really liked just the president's put down of him, because you could sense how that grated with this Rhodey. Certainly given what he says to Priscilla in the here in the church, but also in his conversation with Nick Fury in his hotel room.
Yeah, I love that final line from Rhodey as he's leaving, where he's saying, "You keep telling me what you're not going to do, and I'm going to show you what I will do." Effectively, it's a real threatening line. Really good job from Don Cheadle once again.
I bring it back to Priscilla because I have a whole thing on Rhodey that I want to. So the actual Priscilla Fury relationship and how it essentially ends, and the sorriness when you add on what the title being of this episode called Beloved, the poem being called Beloved, the history that we see France, we see how they how she changed her appearance to take up the form of Priscilla in previous episodes.
Yeah.
And we see that they have had this connection and that there is genuine emotion and care for the two, between these two, to find out that it is or was essentially a placement. It was an assignment for her. She was told to monitor and keep an eye on Fury to a degree.
That's interesting. I don't know. I feel like the way the words were written, it could be read partially that way. But I felt like Nick was joking with her when he said, "Oh, you were playing the long game from the start."
She does challenge him on that as well.
It's like as if she's saying, "Actually, I chose this body because I knew it would be pleasing to you, Nick." But not that she was embedding herself as a secret agent at the time.
See, I took it as she took that for him because it would be pleasing to him so that she could...
Yeah.
She basically honey trap him, and it's a long honey trap because she had to keep an eye from the Skrull interests on Fury.
It's just because it was 1998 when she took that body on, and there was no ill intent from the Skrulls from 1998. She's been turned into
But we don't know that. We don't know because we now know that there is another body of... There's the council, so there could have been other... she could...
Well, it's this Rhodey Skrull handler as well, because... that's who contacted her. Maybe it was through them, but it was a little unclear because she does say that, yet she draws, she pulls him up on when Fury says, you were playing the long game. Yeah. Don't go there. There's more to us than that.
Exactly.
And I think that's right. But I think initially, possibly that was the point. I think what complicated was that she wanted to ask this dying woman for her form. She didn't want to just take it. And in doing so, was given conditions. Because she asks her in a way this, do you want to fall in love? You're dying. You're going to die very soon. You can have another life and you can fall in love. And she asks her for 3 promises: to bury her at sea, continue to be a daughter to her parents, but also that she would never hurt the person that she's going to have this relationship with, which is Fury. So there's a sense of honor here with Priscilla.
Exactly.
And so, and I mean, ultimately, it gives a picture which made the gunshots ringing out really, really effective, because when it then just pans to her, I was just like, are you joking me? Has she actually killed Fury in that moment? And then you see that they've both,
shot and missed.
They've both shot and missed. And really, in the end, there is a trust there between the two of them, I'm guessing. Because they whizzed bullets past one another's ears, so I guess there's an element of trust there as to actually what would happen in that moment. So I kind of really enjoyed that. And of course, I love then Nick Fury says, I don't know whether we should divorce or renew our vows after that, which is really funny.
But that's indicative of what I'm saying about the entire conversation. It's all doublespeak. I didn't mean to make it sound like, Chris, you've read it incorrectly. I think they do mean it all to be read as she's an undercover agent. She's there to kill Fury right from the start from 1998, or she's playing the long game, as in she did this to please Fury and have a relationship with him. It all ends with that final conversation between the two of them where she asks, if I had stayed in my original Skrull form, stayed the way I was, would you be in love with me? And he says, I guess we'll never know. So I think it's supposed to be written that way. You're supposed to take it one of two ways. Either of those two ways, it doesn't really matter which. That is the point of this spy type thriller here, right? Everything has a different meaning. Everything could be taken a different way, but they've effectively had two different conversations there about her being a spy and about her being the long-term lover of Nick Fury.
Yeah. And people change in situ, If it's a long-term assignment, then she has actually, exactly.
Yeah. Like I believe that she was completely honest with Fury. He went away for 5 years and then disappeared off to space for another 3 or 4 years. And he had changed so much and she was left on her own for that long that she has now changed. I believe that story she gave was her being truthful.
But she changed back to the person she was
before she met Fury. Yeah.
And she's now on the run herself because, as he says, they'll be after you. But it was, I loved this whole thing between, Fury and Priscilla, both, going back to Paris in 2012, but also, these scenes, back at their home,
Yeah, brilliant. Really, really good.
Moving it back to Rhodey. For the last part of this case note, this is a big thing.
Absolutely,
the question, it calls into question how many actions, how many things, when did he change? How long has he been a Skrull?
Exactly.
Has she been a Skrull? How long has she been Rhodey? That's probably a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
And is it someone we know? Will we find out that this Skrull is X? Is a known, will it be a known Skrull?
You know what I did? When I was rewatching it, I was going, because it's so confident, this Skrull is so different. She seems very vindictive. She seems very mean. I had to go back and look at episode 2 where Nick's speaking to all the Skrulls that have arrived with Talos, when he's talking to them all, and you just can't pick them out. There's very specific markings. They have kind of freckles almost, when they're in their Skrull form. Lots of them have them. Gaia has them, in similar places. So I was kind of going, ooh, maybe it's Gaia. Maybe Gaia's the triple agent and her Skrull form is also Rhodey. We haven't seen them in the same place together,
That's true.
But I think that would be a bit far for the show to push Gaia being into this triple agent that wants to kill Fury. But I couldn't pick out somebody else in the Skrull group that is this person, but I feel like it'll be somebody. Yeah, it'll be revealed. So I don't think we've met this Skrull before, but I think it'll be revealed that they were in the background somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it then very much what I called last week. This is how at the end of the series we get Armor Wars. Essentially, Rhodey gets his life back, and he has to pick up the pieces of the Stark tech and the Iron Man, the War Machine suits that have been taken.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool because it's a fun narrative to have, which is like you have to pull your life back based on everything everyone's said, everything everyone has assumed you've said isn't something you've said.
exactly.
Not you, but they are convinced it's you. And how do you explain?
Yeah.
Like, no, that wasn't me. That was a big little green man, or little green woman.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting, and that is exactly what happened after Secret Invasion of the comic books was the characters trying to explain that they were the real original characters. So that will be really interesting how that plays out. By the way, right, I mentioned the budget for the show earlier on in the season. We've got Rhodey confirmed here as a Skrull. Rhodey's obviously going to be quite central for the other 2 episodes of the show, I guess. Will we see his War Machine suit in the show, given the budget that we're talking about here?
Who knows?
Maybe.
But who's going to inhabit
could be
it?
a 6.
I think in my mind, I was going, we definitely won't see it. Then I saw the budget, and then I saw how central Rhodey is in the show here, and I was kind of going, you know what? War Machine in his suit, fighting a Super Skrull. That's something you could do with that kind of budget, isn't it?
Yeah.
At this stage,
possibly.
they've created many versions of the Iron Man suit and the War Machine suit in digital, so it might be a little easier to do it, a little cheaper, maybe to use that on the TV show. Again, I don't know. I was just wondering whether we'll see it. Is that when James Rhodes gets into a War Machine suit and fights back against the Skrulls alongside Fury at the end of the season, you know?
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd be kind of cool.
That would be cool, yeah.
But I don't want to overthink it. I don't want to overpromise, because that was out of my head up until this episode.
And I mean, I really loved how Rhodey, I mean, I know we'll come to it in point 3, sort of more widely on the attack on the president, but I just loved how Rhodes just sat in the back of his armored vehicle, or, you know, the Skrull, knowing that car wasn't going to get touched.
Well, yeah.
It was just kind of, you know, him filing his nails or something, or I don't know, tapping away on his phone. It was just really good, you know, with all the chaos going on outside. But I think, the Rhodey here is just super confident, as you say, different to the other Skrulls that we see here. And, you know, just given, yes, Fury broke into his hotel room, but it had a bottle of whiskey there, sharing that. I mean, I loved this whole thing, you know, the ruse of Fury. I liked just the absolute glare from Fury to the back of the head of Rhodes as he picks up his jacket to go. I just absolutely loved that. After Rhodey's counter, which shows the video of him shooting Hill, and he's just like, because he knows Rhodey is a Skrull, you know, and it's just like the restraint, the kind of almost, you know, the obvious anger that he displays there to the back of Rhodey's head.
And he's basically said it directly to his face as well. He's in a room with this Skrull saying to him, I have intel that someone very close to the president is a mole. How close? As close as me and you are across the table. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Also love because we have had some complaints that this is a tired, broken down Fury. I love that twice in this episode you see the real Fury coming out. He's monitoring his wife at all times to find out who she's beating. So that's a real spy Fury. And we have a little gadget here. The whiskey, tracking device.
The liquid
tracking device. Yeah. That's quite cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah. See, he's still at the top of his game. I don't care what Priscilla said to try and save his life with Rhodey, that he'll probably fall over and die because he's a broken man. He's not.
Of course he's not.
Even though he intentionally aimed to miss Priscilla so that she could get the kill. He's still our Nick Fury.
He is.
Yeah. But speaking of that liquid tracker, that does lead us on to case note number 3.
It does.
Which is how we find, or how Fury and Talos end up essentially saving the president of the United States of America on UK soil.
I know.
From the Russians. I mean, Skrulls from the Russians with really bad Russian accents.
I think before we get into this, there, I really loved this scene. Absolutely. But I did feel that Gravik's tactical genius was undermined slightly, given the fact that his Skrull team weren't Super Skrulls as well.
Yeah.
Because it looked like it was only him with that technology, which had been kind of sort of implanted within him, because the others went down with bullets.
Yes.
He certainly didn't.
Yeah, unless he's given them all extremis.
And well, that's it. Maybe there is that delay, so it'll be like suddenly they'll shoot back up again.
Yeah.
It'll be like
Maybe it's that.
Like the Night of the Living Dead or something.
That's how the next episode begins. Yeah, I wanted to just trace back the plan here from Gravik, because I kind of like actually that it's kept off screen. It's the discussion between him and Pogon, his right hand man. Effectively, this is the whole plan. They have planted the bomb in Russia. They blamed it on an American citizen. Rhodey's been called to the UK to answer for the crimes. Now Ritzen's coming over for this summit, and they're now attacking as Russians, doing an attack on the American president for the bombing that happened in Russia. So all tied together. But again, I like that it's just kind of dropped in a little line from Pogon. Gravik saying to him, make sure it's loud and bombastic, just like the Russians, so we can blame it on them. So he's still working that angle of trying to get country against country, putting Russia against the US so that bombs will fly effectively.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
Yeah, really like that. That's quite
But
cool.
it was superb. I mean, the attack, helicopters, you name it, reinforcements for the president's side. Yeah, I really like this. Even the fact that one of the cars in the convoy, its roof opens up and it's got a whole missile battery.
Awesome.
I was like, wow, is that real or just something that's
it's in the MCU.
In the MCU,
Yeah.
but I was like, that'd be really cool if actually one of the cars with, the president's car actually had a missile battery in the back of it.
Well, there you go.
Like red light, no more red light.
Gotta cover all the threats, yes, even red lights. I love it. No, John, and not that I have any choice in what kind of car you get next, but no, you're not getting a car with a rocket launcher on the back of it. But I did love those movements. I love that we have a rocket launcher that takes out one of the helicopters. Helicopter takes that back, and then Nick goes to the back of his car, takes out his hand rocket launcher, and takes out the other helicopter. So cool. But again, the money is showing on screen here. It's not something you would do, blowing up the helicopter, having it land, having the propeller spin until it explodes. That just looked so cool. It looked movie quality. I was really impressed.
Yeah. No, agree. And the action as a whole, looked good. It didn't just look like Bones or Navy SEALs or one of the CBS shows where it's just like, we're going to put everyone in a tight space and we're going to show you an explosion, but show you a helicopter looking like it's going down and then show an explosion. Yeah. And you just put two and two together. Yeah. No, you could see where some of the dosh was spent here.
Absolutely.
But I also enjoyed it. The plan is Gravik's plan. Mm-hmm. It's not a master stroke of kind of spy ingenuity, but he's not a spy. So it's not Fury's not facing off against another anti-Fury. He's facing off against somewhat of it, the general. He's an army general. He's a leader of a resistance in his head, and essentially his tactics are a bit more heavy-handed. Yeah,
and basically a pissed-off former employee who didn't get paid for the job. Right, that's basically the big problem here. Yeah. He kept his promise, Fury didn't. So yeah, it's a pissed-off former employee. But yeah, the other big movement, obviously, in this is Ritzen's car has flipped over. It's on its back. Ritzen's alive inside, but it's all bulletproof glass and he can't get out. So, as Gravik's trying to get towards him to kill President Ritzen, we have Talos here trying to break through the glass. I thought that was a really good ticking clock as Gravik's troops are moving towards, and the British Army are there, protecting the president. They've arrived, and Talos is trying to break through the window, as it goes on. And of course, we get that moment where Talos is shot and starts to transform back into his Skrull self.
Yeah, I like that. I thought that was cool. Yeah.
Really cool. And seeing one of the members of the British Army going, oh my God, there's an alien and he's on our planet and trying to get at the President of the United States. Fantastic. Because exactly what would happen, right?
Well, that's it. I guess I was thinking as well, when you were saying about like the SEALs and all that sort of US special forces, would have been around the president. And I was thinking it looked like they just sent in sort of just regular British troops, I guess, stationed at the airfield. And I was thinking, they should have had the SAS or something, because they would have already been in the tree line and just been firing away, I guess.
Love it.
But I thought it was really, I really liked this. I mean, to be honest, I'm really hoping Talos isn't dead, because I really like the character, and I think
me too.
a great partner to Nick Fury in this. A strange one. It's not straightforward by any stretch of the imagination, but I just really, really enjoy it. And so, I think Ben Mendelsohn sort of just brings so much to it. So I'm really hoping that he did get some kind of sort of extremis in him, but bookending it with that wouldn't necessarily be that dramatic.
I just can't see episode 5 starting with Talos standing up after being stabbed.
So it really is a big thing here for Talos to be killed.
Yeah, but like we mentioned last week, Chris, you were wondering, what happens when Talos finds out that Gaia's dead. We have the flip of that now. Yeah, so we now have a superpowered Gaia. She is now a super Skrull, finding out that Gravik has murdered her father. You know?
Well, I did think that's where the showdown of how Gravik is overcome. It will be through Gaia.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Also, we kind of almost forgot to mention it. We do see Super Skrull Gravik here. We see Gravik using his brand new Groot arms to strangle and kill one of the opposing forces. So, and it's really clear that it is Groot's arms. It's the same exact look that you see from this tree growing out of Gravik and crushing the life out of one of his enemies. There, it looked cool.
Yeah, I literally think they reused the same animation, though.
I'm sure they did.
It's just like copy and paste instead of Groot's body, Gravik's body.
I do not want to play down the work of the CGI artists here, Chris.
God,
I couldn't do it.
I'm not. No, I'm not. And it's a work that I would never be able to do, and it's amazing work. But I was just kind of like, it still looked like wood, whereas I was expecting more flesh. Kind of green wood, at least, maybe.
No, I think it's cool. I think it makes sense. I think it really stands out that he's just taken on the form of Groot at that point. I think it's cool. Yeah. Good stuff.
Anything final for our case note number 3?
It's just such a sad loss that we've lost Talos. Like Ben, as you said, Ben Mendelsohn's been so good as a character, and this season has really shown him off. We've had some great moments with the character throughout the season so far. But like we said, with the loss of Gaia last week, pushing potentially Talos to be his big antagonistic self, I'm hoping that this is what pushes Gaia to be the big bad versus, or the big good versus Gravik, I guess.
Yeah, the new partner for Fury. You know,
the question I have is, what happens next episode? Do we have Fury, quote unquote, give up? Like, he's like, it's done. It's just, I've lost my friend. Blah blah blah. Like, go down, and then Gaia pulls him up.
Maybe.
Or does this?
I think it pushes Nick.
Does this just push Fury straight into, like, do we get it, like, a couple of scenes of Fury, like, oh my God, and then it's like, that's it, I'm done, I'm sorting this, and he just goes for it.
I think the fact that Nick Fury ultimately left him there, you know, on the ground, didn't bring him in, I think that's because he recognizes, you know, he had to get the president to safety, and Talos would have said the same thing.
Yes.
Like, so, because, you know, he pretty much roars at Gravik when Gravik kills him. It's something that you can see he's immediately torn, but his training, what he is, kicks in. So I think, and this will just spur him further, but that's my feeling anyway, to be honest.
Yes. I do have a question, though.
Go on.
He's left the body of Talos in front of the British Army members who are not trained or briefed that there is such a thing as aliens on the planet. So now a Skrull is dead in front of lots of normal human beings who now know that aliens are on our planet.
Oh, absolutely.
That's quite a
They
big...
can look like us.
Yeah.
And he's one of the good guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe Rhodey will cover it up. Maybe that's the point of Rhodey not coming out of the car. Maybe he'll take the body of Talos to cover it up, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest, all those soldiers could ultimately get killed.
True.
So there's no witnesses.
That's true. That could happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Gravik does escape, of course, with Pogon on the back of the motorbike after another awesome little beat where we have Fury shooting him in the face, and we see him turn around and his face knit back together with him also having the extremis DNA inside him. So I thought that looked fantastic. It looked really like something out of Terminator right there. It really has that moment, and you see it on Fury's face going, oh my God, this guy is unbeatable. No,
absolutely. Probably another reason why he just fled, because it's like, I'm not going to be able to deal with that now. I've got to come up with a strategy.
I've got to protect the president.
Yeah, exactly.
So as usual, we do have one final point for the episode. Who do you trust this week? A lot of things happened in this episode. A lot of people died. A lot of people are now off the table, and a lot of people are confirmed that we can't trust them. So obviously, Rhodey can't trust. Skrull, Gaia, she did walk away from her father.
Yeah,
but she does have the extremis virus inside her.
Yeah, I think Gaia is to be trusted now, based on she still walked away. We know that she has extremis. We know that. I think she just doesn't agree with Talos's approach. But I think definitely with the at the end of where this episode leaves us, she's going to continue to side with Fury, or at least side with Fury's motivations, if not Fury himself.
Yeah.
Yes. I would still trust Gaia.
How about Fury? Do we trust Fury this episode? He did aim a gun at his wife, pull the trigger, and miss on purpose.
He's a Skrull.
We trust Fury. There is actually a weird moment when she asks him about whether he put the ring on or not, and I was going, is somebody impersonating Fury here and didn't know whether to put the ring on or not? Is that what she's calling out there? But no, we can trust Fury, I think.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I think the big question is going to be, who can't we trust in the coming episodes?
Yes.
Like, will the president be, when he is saved, turn out to be a Skrull?
Yeah.
Like, is it going to be
the mole that's close to the president is closer than even Nick Fury thinks. It's the actual president.
Yeah, exactly.
And I certainly still trust Sonya. Sonya
we need to
Falsworth.
see more of her. We do need to see more of her.
We do.
Yes. But good stuff. Any notes from anyone?
Just two quick ones. We kind of mentioned the Undertaker moment, but I just did want to call out that Matt Fowler on Twitter, one of our very favourite entertainment commenters, did comment about this being a definite sign of a Skrull, that the Undertaker has never once done a DDT off the top ropes. That is not his move. So you know that he's a Skrull from that moment. So I like that. One other thing I wanted to call out, the de-aging on this show. Just because we haven't called it out in the last four episodes doesn't mean we don't appreciate it. It's so good. Just seeing the de-aging that we saw to Fury back to 1998, which is very similar to what we saw in Captain Marvel. Yeah. It doesn't stand out at all. It looks like Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction. And seeing it again here in this episode where we see him in Paris looking exactly like he just walked off the set of Avengers, looking exactly the same. 10 years de-aging. It looks brilliant. They've done such a great job of making him look much younger. I know it probably stands out much more in contrast when we see the injuries and wounds that Fury has now and his massive beard that we see him in throughout the season so far. It stands out as a big contrast, but that is him de-aged. So that is a special effect that they're using, and it looks fantastic. It looks really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well done, team.
Yeah.
Last one, just to mention, the poem was called Late Fragment, by Raymond Carver. If you want to look it up, it's got some really interesting, little short stories and poems, to look up. That's the poem that Priscilla reads to Nick in France, and he calls back to her, when they meet for the final time in their home.
Yes.
And of course, that's where the title of this episode comes from, i.e. the uses of beloved, in the poem. It's
exactly.
Like the callback.
Yep.
Yes.
Very good.
And of course, President's nickname is Citadel.
Oh, yes, I like that. Like that. Citadel's in car number 4.
Yeah. In trouble.
Love it.
The Citadel has fallen.
Yes, much like that TV show on Amazon.
Yes. Or the movie as well with Jared Butler.
Mm.
Yes.
What are they? Something Olympus has fallen. Sort of
London has fallen.
London has fallen.
The Galaxy has fallen, I think, is coming next.
Pingu has fallen.
Do you know what? I absolutely love those movies. They're really, really good.
No, I do as
They're
well,
really
actually.
good.
Yeah, they are really good.
Turn your brain off action.
Speaking of the president, played by Dermot Mulrooney, really cool little fact about Dermot Mulrooney. He's also a cellist.
Very good.
And he played cello on the score for Mission Impossible 2 and 3, and also Spider-Man No Way Home. So that was his first appearance in the MCU. How cool is that? There you go. So he's a cellist who's played on multiple scores.
Excellent stuff. Right, let us get into our defense of episode 4 of Secret Invasion. Beloved Christopher, do you defend this episode?
I do. I 100% defend this episode. It's a shorter one than usual. Again, we're getting, like the episode length are going down, but a lot was packed in here. Both for good and for bad. Things we called out last week happened, i.e., like Gaia coming back the exact day we called it, and Rhodey being a Skrull called it. I think everyone did. I think they didn't hide them too much, but it's now to see where it goes from here. We have about 90 minutes, just over probably, left of this series. 2 more weeks, and I'm interested to see how this goes. Like, how Nick talks to the president does he use this, how Gaia learns of Talos's death, and how it is all pulled together, and what is the end goal of this series, if that makes sense, where it leaves the MCU. Kind of, I'm interested to see, because now we know there's a million Skrulls walking about.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how that kind of... I just want to see more Olivia Colman, so maybe some more Olivia Colman, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think that might be in next week's episode.
I think that might
it's
be
on
where
UK
Fury's
soil.
bringing Ritson.
Yeah.
Yes, or Citadel, we should say.
Yes.
Derek, do you defend this episode?
I love this episode. This is perfect. I like that it's set the table for where we're going. I like that we had a massive battle here with Gravik really using lots of his force. We got to see Super Skrulls in action twice in the episode. We had an amazing moment with Priscilla and Fury, a quiet moment, but so much strength and brilliant performances within the scene itself. Absolutely loved it. It's really sad to be saying goodbye to Talos in the show, but there were going to be casualties. We knew that from the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
This is the biggest casualty that we could have had. Nick Fury's best friend, really. So yeah, a really, really strong episode. I loved it. Can't wait for more this season. I'm really disappointed that the times of the show are shortening down. I said before, I'd like to see a 365 weekly episodes for this, so I can watch Nick Fury for a whole year. So give me more. Hopefully they shorten the episodes, because that was the perfect moment to finish the episode. So maybe next week's episode's an hour 10 or something like that, to make up the full usual running time of an MCU series. So loved it. Really, really enjoyed it. How about yourself, John? Do you defend Secret Invasion episode 4, beloved?
I do. I'd give this 4.5 tasty traces out of 5. Yeah, I just really liked sort of the action climax to this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Talos, having someone die, in a movie, sometimes, certainly early on in the MCU, it's kind of like, well, what threat do these people, the superheroes get? Because they're superhero. They can kind of deal with most things. Here, the thing I like about this world is that, Nick Fury is essentially just a really smooth, sort of clever human.
Mm-hmm.
Talos is a clever Skrull.
Yeah.
There's nothing super as such about them. They're just top of their game. So, it's a real threat, and Talos paid for that in this episode. And, I'm really sad to see Talos, leave in that sense.
Sure.
It was good to see, Gaia reborn, with the Extremis. It'd be interesting to see what happens now with her father dead, at the hands of Gravik. also, certainly given that Talos had said, to Gaia about her mother, well, ask the people you're with why she's not here. So again, it's kind of double the deaths possibly for Gaia at the hands of Gravik and his team. I love the stuff between Priscilla and Nick Fury, and also with Rhodey. Rhodey, I think the intrigue around that, really, really good. Who is this Skrull? Exactly who are they? That intrigue, really good. And I think with Priscilla and Fury, having those intimate moments, it's just really good for Fury because he can just be that director of S.H.I.E.L.D. in a lot of the movies where it's, he's head of an organization effectively. This part of his, his private life, is really, it really informs on, the character of Nicholas Fury. So I absolutely really enjoyed that stuff as well. So yes, for me, 4.5 tasty traitors out of 5.
Very good. Very good. I think we need to go to the pub, John.
I think we do. Speaking of tasty tracers or tasters even, that you get sort of that whiskey tasting.
I get you. I get you.
So let us head on over, fellow defenders and quizzes, to our pub quiz. It is question 4. Can you guess what the question might be? What is the name of the whiskey shared by Fury and Rhodes, and how much did Nick Fury say that it cost?
Very good. Yes, I've given that out to a bunch of our fellow defenders. If you ever see any alcohol in the show, look out first, because that could be the question. So on form here, John. Do you want to give the question one more time?
Absolutely. What is the name of the whiskey shared by Fury and Rhodes, and how much did Nick Fury say that it costs?
Importantly, how much did Nick Fury say it costs? If you Google it, the actual cost of this actual whiskey is more than Nick Fury said.
I don't think I'll ever be taking any snifter of that brand of whiskey.
No, you could probably get a sniff, but that's it. So
well, maybe.
You have to pay a couple of $100 for a sniff.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, not a snifter. They even have one that's like $40,000. Like, wow. But anyway, that is the 4th question of 6 for this season of Secret Invasion. Gather them together with all of the questions at the end of the season. You can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, and you could be in with the chance of getting your hands on a Secret Invasion goodie bag, I guess.
Excellent stuff.
Goodie bag.
Yes.
It's not really a bag. You will get a digital copy of this year's Secret Invasion, the 5-issue series starring Nick Fury and Maria Hill. You'll definitely get that, and there's some other goodies that will be sent out to you as well.
Or will it be a Skrull baddie bag?
It might be a baddie bag. Oh, I like that. Good stuff.
So, fellow defenders, we've been to the pub. Now it is off to our feedback. But first, with a public service announcement, it is Christopher.
Yes, we want to thank everyone for your support of our podcast. But this episode in particular of TV Podcast Industries is brought to you by our supporters over on Patreon, including the one and only Russell Hooper. Thank you, Russell.
Thanks so much, Russell. Great.
Yeah, thank you so much, Russell.
Great to have you on board, and thanks for all the support of everybody over on Patreon.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good to get the support from everyone.
Yes, and if you want to be cool like Russell, because you know you can support us monthly for any amount over on patreon.com/tvpodcastindustries. Or if you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you can pop on over to buymeacoffee.com/tvpi and buy us a coffee. Yes, it helps keeps the lights and the mics on for this little wee show that we enjoy doing for you guys. Yes, you can also support us by subscribing to the podcast and sharing it with your friends and Skrull allies. Remember, sharing the podcast is what, gentlemen?
It is sharing the love.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of sharing the love, let's get on to some feedback from our awesome fellow defenders. First up, we have some thoughts on last week's episode. An email in from Chris in New York. Not you, Chris.
I haven't moved.
You're not in New York again.
Still here.
No, yeah. still at home. Still at home with Miles. Haven't flown out to New York yet. Chris says, "Hey guys, love the podcast. I had a couple of thoughts based on what has been seen and said. Number 1, is Sonya Falsworth actually Talos' wife? Maybe she didn't die, but Gravik's actions forced her to go deep undercover.
Ooh, I like that.
Number 2, does Priscilla's line about becoming who she was before Nick blipped really mean she was a mother? At the end, she may have been calling Gravik as an adoptive mother, not as someone in line with his plan, says Chris. Ooh, I like that. Yeah, that's really interesting. I think, Chris, mentioned on last episode that we had a theory that potentially Priscilla and Nick adopted Gravik right back after he arrived on the planet, having lost his parents. So could it potentially be that he's that close with Nick and Priscilla, and she went back to being his adoptive mother after Nick had been gone for so long?
Yeah.
No, I still like that one as an idea. Yeah. The other one, just on Gaia's mother being alive in terms of Fallsworth. I don't know if she's her, but I do think she's alive. I'm wondering if Talos' whole thing of her dead being killed was essentially meaning that she is no more. She is no longer on our side. And Talos was just being a bit kind of dramatic, and she's working for. Is she Rhodey?
I was just about to say that,
we were, like, supposed to know that she was actually Rhodey and she's there now. She might as well be dead because she's working for the enemy.
Right.
Type thing.
Well, that's it. Maybe that's what he meant. You know, you need to ask Gravik and everyone there about your mother's death, because actually they switched her allegiance.
I think if we go and look at the post-credit scene from Spider-Man Far From Home, there's a very good look at what Talos' wife looks like in full Skrull makeup. So I wonder if you have a quick look at that. That might tell us.
Yeah.
Before next week's
episode.
They
really did linger on the face in the bathroom.
They
scene.
did, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's just like you're supposed to. I think you're supposed to figure it out, or at least the deep nerds like ourselves are supposed to figure it out. I don't have time to go do it. Fellow defenders, if any of you
I'll go do it, Chris. Don't you worry. I might even do it before this episode's out. I might even have a quick chance to do that. I also like the little gag in it as well when she looks in the mirror, having transformed back into Rhodey, and you see the disdain on Rhodey's face, going, "Oh God, I've got to put this stupid face back on again. Having to look like a stupid human again." Yeah.
But yeah, thanks, Chris.
You're welcome, and thank you, Chris.
Yeah, we also got an email in from Russell Hooper, who says, "Howdy guys, some thoughts I had while listening to your show on episode 3. On UN1, it made me think, what is the state of the world governments after the blip? Are individual countries still a thing, or has a one world government arisen out of the chaos? If there is a global government, then a UN1 makes sense. On Fury's brokenness, his world when he returned was in chaos, and as a result had to have changed. Maybe he doesn't know where he fits in." And the second point, he came back to at least 2 important people to him being dead, Natasha Romanoff and Tony Stark. Also, and I may be missing something, where did Danvers go post-blip? Has she been seen around since then? And losing Maria Hill had to be devastating, assuming she is dead. Or she isn't, but he doesn't know that. Gentlemen, thanks again for this podcast. You helped me learn stuff I didn't know or I missed. Russell Hooper. Thanks so much, Russell. I like some of the points there on Fury's brokenness. I think even with the sort of the end of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well, you know, he has had change before the blip. So, like, he is trying to find his feet. You know, you've had the CIA effectively become that big organization like S.H.I.E.L.D. was. So, you know, it's almost like he didn't become the director of the CIA all of a sudden. So, you know, there are people in a sense almost above his pay grade. So he's yeah.
Well, he doesn't have a job now.
Well,
so
no, he doesn't have a job,
grade.
exactly. But he, you know, so he really is still trying to figure out where he fits in. And I think you're right. You know, where is Danvers? I really want to know. I think there's way too much sort of blame being put on Fury when it is technically Danvers who can fly around the galaxy to find these planets.
Yeah.
And knows more about the galaxy anyway previously, so should be able to pinpoint it. Come on, Danvers.
It'd be great. It'd be great to see her back on the show. Specifically in the MCU, though, we did see her, of course, in Endgame. She had the big moment, the big fight within Endgame. That's the last time we saw her up until the post-credit scene in Miss Marvel, where she trades places with Miss Marvel and arrives in the home of her in Brooklyn. Yeah. So that is the next time we will see Carol Danvers back, is going to be in the Marvels, definitely. It'd be great if they did some filming and had her appear in this show. She's already appeared in one Disney Plus series, so why can't she appear in Secret Invasion? It's so connected to the first Captain Marvel movie. There's no reason why we can't have Carol Danvers back here.
Absolutely.
To answer for her crime of not providing a home for the Skrulls.
Absolutely. Or whether they are going to address that somehow in the Marvels.
Like, the big point that she did make in the Avengers movie was, you guys are dealing with all the stuff going on Earth. There are a billion other planets in the galaxy that have also gone through the exact same thing with the snap that your planet's gone through. That's why I'm out there dealing with all of those issues, basically. Yeah, so
she needs to prioritize though.
She does need to find a home for the Skrulls. So, yes. Yes, maybe there's one planet out there that everybody on the planet got snapped away.
Yeah. Well, actually,
but then they would have come back, of course. The blip, of course, yes, they would have come back. So, no, you can't use those planets.
We'll find them. There's also nowhere.
Yeah, and I wonder about the timing as well, because, planets orbit. So if they blipped away, if they blip back, do they blip back in exactly the same place? And if it's a different part of the orbit?
Kevin Feige has already explained this.
Okay.
The writing was
Kevin.
That Hulk, when he did his snap, to bring everybody back, was bring them all back safely. He qualified it so people didn't appear in midair.
Or in the vacuum of space.
Exactly.
Yes, that would have been even more tragic.
It would have. Thanks so much, Russell.
Yeah, thanks, Russell.
We also got some feedback over on Facebook from Selima Kisler, who has this to say: I couldn't agree more with Chris that they give away way too much in the trailers. I don't even watch trailers anymore unless I'm not sure if I want to see the show or movie, which for the most part doesn't apply to comic book media.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed to leave, except I'm a glutton for punishment. Like, I have to watch trailer because I have to look at what it is, what the marketing is. But I think I want to get back to where we were with Marvel, where they were basically at certain points just including stuff that wasn't there or wasn't used in the final cut, or they were specifically editing the trailers in a way to make you think it was something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
But we will get there again. It's just they're throwing everything at the wall at the moment to make sure people see this show.
Yeah, I still don't think there's been. I know there was just that moment of the Groot transformation that was revealed in the trailer. I still don't think they're going as badly as DC are. I just watched the new trailer for Blue Beetle, the second trailer that came out today. And it's the entire movie cut into 3 minutes. Like, you get the whole turn and twist of the character in 3 minutes. So I don't need to see that, which is unfortunate because I kind of wanted to see it. It seems like fun.
Yeah, it does.
And same thing happened with the with a couple of other trailers this year that feel like they are cutting the entire story into 3 minutes. You can see the transformation of your main character throughout it. There's not a huge amount more in the trailer, as far as I know. The trailers that have been released for Secret Invasion, and not a huge amount more that hasn't been seen on screen. There's one scene that I'm aware of that hasn't been seen on screen yet, but not a huge amount that should spoil the last 2 episodes of the season. So, I think they do need to drive people to watch these shows, though. So I understand the balancing acts that they have to do, but I think there are definitely some really bad versions of it where an entire story gets cut into a couple of minute trailer. But good stuff. Thanks, Salim.
Yeah, thanks, Salim.
On this week's episode, we have an email in from Coffee and Vodka who says, "Greetings, fellow extremis injected defenders. I keep going back and forth with this series, understanding why it was written as a plot to get America and Russia to go to war rather than an out-and-out Skrull invasion, money and fitting in with future project continuity chief among them. That said, 1 million Skrulls against Sonya, Nick, and maybe Gaia? Fury would call in a few big superpowered guns. Spycraft only goes so far when you've only got yourself to depend on, especially now with Talos dead and not a single helicarrier to his name, unless of course Sword's coming into play in the last episode. That said, the show's directed and acted well, excellent production, excellent everything, except the overriding plot. This and Gravik had Fury and the President dead to rights. Yet for some reason, he didn't press his advantage. Looking forward to the last 2 episodes turning the first 4 on their collective head in a 1-2 punch nobody, including me, saw coming. Finally, any ideas as to who is impersonating Rhodey? 2 tuckered out Talos-less tacticians, glowing Gaias, and I am Grots out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and vodka. I am Grots. I like that. That's
Excellent.
very good.
That's really good.
I think we've talked about who we think might be impersonating Rhodey a bit. Kind of don't know for definite, but I'm definitely going to be going out and checking out the post-credit scene in Spider-Man. It's a shame it's down to 2 out of 5 for you at this stage, Coffee and Vodka, but it sounds like you're open to the last 2 episodes, changing your mind about this.
I mean, I can absolutely see, and I think certainly having read the comics with Secret Invasion,
The first
that all
ever,
out Skrull invasion, and certainly given $220 million spent on it. I was wondering whether it was going to be of that ilk.
Right.
Certainly it's not. And whilst yes, I wish that it had been a bit more sort of that all out invasion, I've actually really enjoyed what we've got on that. I think maybe, certainly as well for Nicholas Fury, and the length of time now within the MCU, I think it's kind of been interesting seeing that sort of more nuanced side of things. But maybe, as you say, the last 2 episodes, are going to be just totally espionage-like and turn things on their heads.
Completely on their head, yeah.
I think they will.
I do want to say, though, it's not Nick versus 1,000,000 Skrulls. There's 1,000,000 Skrulls on Earth. It's Nick versus Gravik and his supporters. So that does cut down the odds at least to a more manageable level, right?
And his soldier supporters, not his actual, the other refugees as well.
Yeah. So it is a smaller challenge. So while there are 1,000,000 Skrulls on Earth, Nick isn't looking to kick them all off the planet. He's more aligned with Talos's plan, I guess, is take down the insurgents, which is just that group of soldiers and the people that are backing Gravik. Yeah. But of course, quite a few of them got taken out in this episode as well, so their numbers are coming down a bit.
Well, as I say, the tactician side of Gravik, he should have made them Super Skrulls. Mm-hmm. And then he really could have pressed his advantage. But yeah, thanks, Coffee and Vodka. Mm-hmm. Always great to get your thoughts. Over on Facebook, Heather Wallace says, when did George R.R. Martin start writing for the MCU?
Lots of death in this episode.
Certainly.
And throughout the series so far, yeah.
And also, Dr. Bob Phillips says, at the rate of episode length decline, I think we'll be lucky to end up with a 14-minute finale. Now, does anyone else on Earth wander into a dive of a diner or a posh hotel bar and go hang their coat up on the rack? That Fury does. Mm-hmm. Also, really like the way the art in Fury's home is all reminiscent of Transformation and Masquerade.
Very good.
So many swirls and whirls, double and triple, then double or not cross. The firefight was superb. Definitely worth having it as the point to exit on. And is it the second non-death cliffhanger? Third, if you count Maria Hill. Well, that's it. I think, if Maria Hill is still alive and kicking somewhere, whether known or unknown to Fury, plus now Gaia, I think a third might just be taking sort of the proverbial, the proverbial invincibility of people in superhero movies to the extreme or to the extremis.
Yes. And I don't want to see Talos gone. I don't, but I just feel if you did it at the start of the next episode, he stood back up again. I just feel it would be
it'd be hilarious if he does.
I think lots of people.
Oh wait, it's not actually the start of the next episode. He does it in episode 6. That's how they get around it. It's like, surprise.
Exactly, and then Rhodey is actually Talos's wife, so she wasn't really dead either. And it's like, oh, no one's died. Yay! Other than Gravik.
Comic books.
Good stuff. Thanks, Dr. Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Bob. Still over on Facebook, Salima Kisler had this to say, short episode, but a lot happened. Skull Rhodey is sloppy. Is he just overconfident because he thinks he's playing Fury like a fiddle? They re-established here that Fury is a step ahead, listening in to Skrull Rhodey's conversation and then slipping him the tracker literally right under his nose. Technically in a glass, but same thing. I wonder if he has some more behind-the-scenes machinations we weren't aware of. Who are those soldiers backing up Fury and Talos? Does Fury still have that pager? The good guys are severely short-handed. Thanks, Salim. Yeah, I think the pager's dead, because I think it was a one-use one from before, but maybe they've a better one now, because they definitely, we've seen Captain Marvel in those kind of long-range distance kind of teleconferences from the Avengers stuff, so yeah, definitely have access.
Yeah, she probably wouldn't need a pager to get her. I'm sure there's a way to contact her otherwise, yeah.
The soldiers backing up were the US guys and the UK army, kind of essentially was that. I think they call it the UK army, kind of being there to help. And then the behind-the-scenes machinations, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for like the opening of 6, where we get all the machinations and all the plots and the ploys coming to bear fruit.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'd like to know more, Salim, about, who those soldiers backing up Fury and Talos. Is it because they look naff? Because if that's the case, yes,
it's the British Army.
It's the British Army.
Which is terrible. We shouldn't say that.
No, it's not. It's dreadful. I shouldn't say that.
One of the biggest armies in the world, John.
Well, not really.
Not really anymore, no.
Gutted. Good special forces, though.
Yes, very much so. Thanks, Liam. David Mr. Ryder says, these cliffhangers will be the death of me. I paused it with 18 minutes left to get a snack. 5 minutes later, it's the end of the episode. But best episode so far. You guys predicted what would happen in this episode. Also, we're about to see the Mad Queen come out, Emilia Clarke. Is it Wednesday already? Loved every bit of this one today. Bravo. Also, the truck with the concealed cannon. Super cool. Gravik with that stab to the chest, the soulless look in his eyes. Incredible job casting. He just inserts fear and death with just his stare. It's like an endless bottomless pit looking into his eyes. Yeah, he's such a good job. Does such a good job, Kingsley Benedict here. Really,
he does
really
actually. I would actually have liked to have seen a bit more of him in this, because I know just that moment where they're talking about preparing the plan, and they he explains to Pagon why why Gaia is not there, and so on. It would have a bit more, even if it's just connecting back to the council or something. I think that would have been quite cool. But he's really good in this. Yes, I like that idea that maybe it's Emilia Clarke, it's Gaia who will become the Mad Queen.
The Mad Queen. Lovely. Thanks, David. Russell Hooper says Nick Fury channeled his Jules Winfield from Pulp Fiction while talking to Rhodey in the hotel room. I definitely had that moment where I was kind of thinking, is he going to call out Ezekiel 25:17 to him? Is he going to?
I think, with the stare, just incredible. He's still got it.
He does. Absolutely. Thanks, Russell.
Thanks, Russell. Next up, we have some feedback from Brendan Cregan with this to say, wow, this episode confirmed everything I predicted from last week. The episode opened with Gaia popping up from the dead with the help of extremists, and we got to see how she acquired the ability. Rhodey was confirmed to be a Skrull, and his wife was playing double or triple agent. The part that hit hard for me, and I'm sure a lot of fans, was the death of Talos. This scene, like the Maria Hill scene at the end of the first episode, looked final.
Yeah.
Fury looked absolutely gutted that he couldn't save him, but he had to protect the president. This will be the watershed moment for Fury in the series that should set him back on the right path to being the old Fury again. Just hate that it took losing his best friend and one of the best characters on the show to do it. At least this should mean we will get more screen time with Olivia Colman's character, as we still do not know much about her or her motivations. Looking forward to the last 2 episodes. Thanks, Brendan. Yeah, a lot of it, pretty much what you said. Like, it seems to be the watershed moment. This will probably be the kind of the proverbial kick in the behind for Fury that really kind of gets him back. But we saw sprinklings of it here. We saw him, as we've talked about to nauseum now, which is like he was listening in on Rhodey. He has tracked Rhodey. He was listening in to his wife. He understood. So while the old Fury may not be there might be a new and improved Fury coming down the line.
Exactly. Anyone that carries in their back trunk along with their spare tire a handheld sort of RPG, fair dues.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Brilliant stuff. Thanks so much, Brendan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brendan. Fellow Defenders, that is all from us for this episode of TV Podcast Industries and us covering Secret Invasion. Of course, we will be back next week with episode 5 of Secret Invasion.
Yes, Chris and I will be back for the 5th episode of Secret Invasion. John, unfortunately, has to step out for 1 week, but hopefully he'll be back in time for the finale.
Yes, apologies.
That's all right. That happens.
You're going back up into space with the other little green men.
Yes, I'll be back up in space with sword or saber, whatever it is called. It is S.H.I.E.L.D. in space.
Yes.
Oh dear. But if you do want to hear more, John, we have the next 2 episodes of our Witcher Season 3 coverage coming out. Episodes 3 and 4 recorded. They're in the bag. They'll be out after this episode. Should be out in your feed by Sunday of this week. So look forward to that. Been a lot of fun this season of The Witcher.
It has actually. Really enjoyed it. And of course, we will be covering Good Omens Season 2 as well, which is coming out towards the end of July, 28th of July.
It's coming out 28th of July. All 6 episodes available on Prime Video for Season 2. There is a feed for Good Omens available on our website at tvpodcastindustries.com. You can listen back to the first season, all of our coverage there. Can we say it, John?
Go on.
That we've watched the first couple of episodes?
We have.
Yes, we have. We've seen the first couple of episodes of Good Omens Season 2, and it's delightfully British.
It's great.
I will definitely say that. It's my kind of eccentric humor. I'm really enjoying it so far. So looking forward to covering that on the podcast when it gets released from the July 28th.
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, thank you, fellow Defenders, for joining us as always.
Speak to you again next time.
Yes, thank you so much. I look forward to speaking to episode 5 when someone else dies. Because they're killing off everyone in this
Probably.
show. It's like, Rhodey's dead. Let's start a dead pool.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Indeed. Yes, see you, fellow Defenders. In the meantime, until the next episode, keep watching, keep listening, and be careful who you trust.
Bye.
Bye.